morning, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the channel if you're seeing me for the first time. I've come down to the woods today. It's what, the 4th of January. It's very cold and still a bit of frost on the ground, but because of the time of the year, it's a clear-ish day. There's a few scattered clouds about, but it's clear. Because of the time of year, the sun stays quite low in the sky for most of the day, so if you come down to the woods, you get a lot of like side-lit trees and a lot of backlighting going on. It looks quite cool, it looks quite good fun. So I came here the other day with this camera. I'll just have a look around, just seeing if anything had changed since the last time I was here. And it looked quite nice, so we're going to go around and essentially I'm going to shoot the compositions that I saw a couple of days ago. So what I've done is I bought a Canon 7D. It's not a Canon 7D Mark II, it's the OG Canon 7D. It's the original Canon 7D. 18 megapixel sensor. I think it's got 2 Digic 4 processors in there, so it is quite a fast camera for a DSLR. It shoots 8 frames a second, which is more than enough for me. And this thing, for an APS-C body, is massive. It's about the same size as my old Canon 6D, and it definitely weighs a little bit more than that camera did. So it's weather sealed as well, which is going to make things quite fun. I've got one weather sealed DSLR, but that's the 1D. This makes it 2 weather sealed DSLR. So I think at some point down the line, I'm going to get a 3rd weather sealed DSLR, which is probably going to be a 5D Mark III. But the focus of today's video is just winter woodland photography with a Canon 7D, which is remarkably similar to the last video I did, which was winter woodland photography with a Canon 1D, wasn't it? But hey ho, the conditions are just so much better for this. And you can see behind me, there's just some nice soft low light. It just looks awesome. So like I said, I came here a couple of days ago and the weather conditions are exactly the same, which is why I thought to come here and do this. So like I said, we're going to go for a walk around. We're going to go find the compositions that I spotted a couple of days ago, and I was just walking around handheld. Today I've got tripods and no kids because I brought 3 of my 4 kids with me the other day, so kind of get in the way a bit, don't they? I love them, but they do get in the way. So yeah, let's get cracking, eh? Let's go take some pictures. Alright, so this is the first subject I've come to take a picture of today. It's a fallen tree. It looks a little bit nicer from the angle I'm going to take a picture from over there, but I just wanted to show you how big this thing is by putting myself next to it. So it's a big old tree that's fallen down, and it does make for quite a nice subject there. This was one of them that took a little bit of figuring out, you know, you got to really work the angles of this one, finding the best spot to shoot it from, which is over there. So I'm going to move the camera into position. I'm going to take some pictures of it. You can see just over my shoulder over there. That's where the sun is, so we're getting some nice sunlight being cast on this tree, which is really going to help with this composition. There's going to be some dark shadowy areas where I'm standing right now, which is going to be in the frame somewhat, but obviously to one side of the frame there's going to be some nice side light coming in. So I'll move the cameras around there. We're going to go take this first photograph. So like I was saying, this is one that I scouted a couple of days ago. I did take a reference photograph from this. I'm just going to have to try and remember how I took this one. So let's get moving into position and see how this photograph turns out today. Alright, so I've got the composition set up on the back of the camera, so let's talk about some settings here. So we're at f5.6, a 30th of a second, and ISO 200. I'm using ISO 200 purely because it's a little bit dark and shadowy where the camera is, and I just want to keep the shutter speeds up a little bit because there's a bit of a breeze and things might blow around a bit. Also got to remember that I'm using a crop sensor camera, so there's going to be a little bit more noise in this image than there would be using a full frame camera, but like most people, I did start with crop sensor camera, so I am comfortable with noise levels up, maybe up to ISO 400. You can probably get away with it with a crop sensor. So let's go ahead, we're going to take the image. So I'm going to use a 2-second timer. So what I've done with this composition is I've got where the tree has snapped in half, the tree trunk, it's snapped in half like that. I've got that at the bottom right hand corner of the frame, and I've just kind of got the tree diagonally leading through the frame towards the top left-hand corner. And obviously behind the tree, you've got all the backlight. In front of the tree, you've got all the shadow area. So I'm gonna throw the image on the screen for you to see, and then we're gonna go find the next composition that I sort of saw the other day when I came here with this Canon 7D. Well, let's go. All right, so while I just sit down and have a little bit of a breather, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this camera and why I feel that the used market for DSLRs it's a great place to be looking right now. Obviously, the mirrorless movement is what we'll call it. It's well underway. Everything is heading towards mirrorless cameras, but I don't feel personally like DSLRs have had their day. There's something nice about looking through an optical viewfinder as opposed to an electronic viewfinder. So I'm going to read the spec sheets off my phone. I would like to say I've memorised this, but I haven't, and I want to see if I can sort of articulate my point here. So this Canon 7D was released in 2009 and it cost $1,700 US, which I think is probably around 1,200 British pounds. So it wasn't a cheap camera in its day. It was aimed at the working professional who needed a little bit more reach from an APS-C body. I bought this camera for £170. 1,200 to 170. It's an absolute bargain. So it's got 18 megapixels. It has a CMOS sensor, 8 frames a second. It does HD video recording, which for somebody that shoots video, it may come in handy at some point. It's got a 19-point autofocus system as well. Now, I've used cameras with 5, 7, 11 autofocus points. My Canon 1D Mark III has 19 user selectable autofocus points, but I believe it's got 46 altogether. But this camera actually has the autofocus points set up in zones, so you can select certain zones that you want. So it's got the center 9, 4, 4, 4, 4. It's quite a good little feature. I quite like it. It's also the viewfinder, and this camera has the composition grid which lights up, which is I've never seen that in a viewfinder before. Viewfinders often don't have the composition grids. This one does, which is really nice, and the whole viewfinder lights up red when it flashes red when you're in focus, which I quite like. So let's have a look. So it's a magnesium alloy body. It's fully weather sealed, which is absolutely fantastic. Obviously, I do outside landscape photography in all different kinds of weather, so to have a camera that is capable of being out shooting in those conditions and won't let me down, that's another bonus point. One thing that I'm a little bit sad about is it takes the same batteries as my Canon 6D, and when I sold my old Canon 6D, I got rid of all the spare batteries, so I had to buy another spare battery, which annoyed me a little bit, but well, that is what it is. So let's have a look at the camera itself, shall we? I'm going to move over there. I'm going to have to get on my knees for this bit, I feel. This is why I always come home muddy. So this is the camera. It's massive. On the back of it, it has a live view button there. It also has the joystick, like my 1D Mark III does, for moving the autofocus points around, which I will tell you, if you have a camera with a joystick, it is just so much easier than using these multi-controllers. But this camera does feature the multi-controller wheel back there, which is usually for selecting aperture for me or for exposure compensation. As you can see, top there, it's got a top screen as well, which is always really useful to have. Let me go move back over here, because that's hitting my knees. I'm getting old. So the used market for DSLRs, it's the place to be, I think. I have two mirrorless cameras. I have an EOS M6 that this has been recorded on. I have a Canon RP. I love both of those cameras, but they're expensive, I will be honest with you, and in some ways they are feature lacking. So in order to get the features that I want without spending an awful lot of money, I often look to the used market. Now, all of my cameras have been bought used. This M6 that's been recorded on my RP, my 1D, my 400D, all bought used. Not one of them has been bought new, and they've never ever let me down. So it's not a scary place to be, the used market, but I would say £170. Well, actually it was £165, but £5 postage. It also comes with a year's warranty, because I didn't buy it off eBay. I bought it off a site called mpb.com. I would avoid eBay like the plague. really, for buying used camera gear, especially if you see something that says it's untested. That generally means broken. So I use mpb.com to buy my camera gear, and to be fair, I've never had a bad experience off there. But like I say, 165, 170 quid for a camera that costs 1200 quid brand new, you can't go wrong, can you? So yeah, that's enough of me waffling on about cameras. Let's go take another photograph. It's just around the corner. I know where I'm going today, so there's going to be no wandering around aimlessly in the woods, which makes things a lot easier. So let's go. Okay, good news. My wireless microphone battery ran out, so I'm now tethered to my camera with a 2-foot wireless cable. So this is going to get really interesting. So what I've done, we are now at my second composition I want to take a photograph of, and it's going to be really difficult to record this bit. So let me move out of the way and see if we can do this. In the background there is a big old tree, nice and dark. To the left of it, or whatever way that is, there is some what I think are silver birch trees. They look quite nice because they're catching all the side light from a funny angle. So we're going to try and take a photograph of it while I can't move. Now, in my videos, if you see them, I like to move around the scene. I don't like to stand 3 inches away from my camera lens because I'm tethered to it. So let's take this image and hopefully I can continue recording this video somehow. Don't buy wireless microphones. Well, do buy wireless microphones. They're actually really good, but make sure you charge them before you come out, won't you? Unlike me. Alright, so here's my composition on the back of my camera in the live view mode. I apologise if there is a little bit of glare coming off this, but I don't actually have a polarizer with me today, which would have been a handy thing to have in hindsight, but well, it is what it is. So we've got all these little silver birch trees here, we've got this nice big dark tree here, we've got all the oranges and browns and everything in the foreground down there, and obviously we've got the side light hitting everything at a very low angle. So I'm going to go ahead and use a 2-second timer, f5.6, a 60th of a second, and ISO 100. And there we have it. I see there's some blinking bits on some of the trees, but I can kind of live with that for the most part. So here's the image on the screen. We'll go off and we're going to go find the final image from today's video. Alright, so I've composed the final image now. You just have to excuse the shadows on my face. I'm stood right in amongst the branches of a tree and the sun's, well, it's over there. It's just not ideal for this. So let's have a look at some settings. We've got a 1/80th of a second, f10, an ISO 100. I'm going to go ahead using a 2-second timer with this one. This photograph, I have a feeling, is probably one of them that would look better with some sky, some light clouds or something in the sky. It's still a very blue and bright day. It was okay when I was in amongst the trees, but maybe not so much for this one. When I came the other day, there was a bit of cloud in the sky, which gave the sky a little bit of an interest, and unfortunately there is some just blue sky in this image, which is less than ideal. I'm not too sure about how this one's going to look, in all honesty. But what we've got, there is a little green shrub and there is a rather large white tree, and they're sort of balancing each other out quite nicely in the frame. There's a bit of a bank of trees in the background, but they're kind of going to be out of focus for this one anyway, so it's not really going to matter too much. So I'm going to stop waffling on now, and I'm going to say, if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, because it is important for the video and for the channel. It does bring new viewers to my channel, which I always appreciate. And if you really did enjoy the video, there is a subscribe button somewhere down there. It's red and it says subscribe. You can always press that and you'll see more nonsense from me in the future. So I'm going to leave you with the final image and say peace and goodbye.